Alright, continuing to learn how to build and use in Roll20. In our last video, we built our first page. That was not our start page, and what we ended up building was a scene. So, not a battle map or a dungeon, but just a page where our players could be sent to have a conversation with some NPCs and get a visual sense of where they were and what they were doing. So a very simple page. No dynamic lighting, no grid, no combat. Just, a nice place to throw up in the background while you have some theater of the mind and some role play and set the tone for the adventure. The adventure that we are building together is the Delian Tomb, which is available for free through the DM's Guild, and the link is in the description of the video. So after they finish their business at the farm, they find out that this little boy here has gone missing, and they, of course, are going to go find this little boy, because you're the DM and you're going to convince them that that's what they need to do, whether by bribe or sense of right and wrong or conscience, I don't know. So the first part of the adventure involves entering the woods and trying to find tracks and trying to find goblins. Because once they're done talking to this little girl who witnessed the attack, more than likely they've figured out that goblins grabbed this kid. So we're going to build the forest. So in order to do that, I'm going to go over to the top of my screen. I'm going to click on this blue ribbon. It's going to pull out the page menu. I'm going to go to the left and click on Create New Page, and it will make a nice blank page. I want to name the page. I'm going to click on the word Untitled. I'm going to type in Boar Forest, and I'm going to hit Enter, and that will register the name with the page. And then I'm going to, I'm going to click on the page and go check it out and see what we've got. So this is a nice big 50 by 50. Why did we make it so big? We probably don't want to run a map that big. You want to have areas outside of your map, sort of like a negative space area, to use as your DM's screen, as weird as that sounds. It'll make sense once we start building. We are going to turn on dynamic lighting, because why not? Let's just jump all the way into this thing. So, I'm going to go back to the settings for pages. I'm going to go to Boar Forest. I'm going to go to page settings. I'm going to scroll down and make sure the grid's turned on, and I'm going to skip over Fog of War. I'm going to skip over Advanced Fog of War. I'm going to click on Dynamic Lighting. We'll enforce line of sight, we will update only on drop, we will restrict movement, and because this is not like a dungeon and it's still going to be daytime, we can click on a global illumination. Alright, cool. So now we can go back to the page and start actually building. I have a map called A Forest Stream. I found it online, I want to say years ago, but it is a great and tiny map, and I will drag it over from my assets folder. There we go. Yeah, a lot of neat stuff going on this map. You can see that there's rocks to climb, there's a little stream to cross, there's a little natural wooden bridge, so it's immediately going to get your players interested in what is happening. So we've got to give this a size. So we're just going to sort of scale it until we feel, pretty good about it. It'll be easier to gauge if we move it to the map layer. So I'm going to right click, and then send it to layer map layer. And now you can see that grid sort of laying over it. How wide across do you want the stream to be? This is about 20 feet across. So even the tallest, strongest character is going to be hard-pressed to cross at that point. They could try to jump across over here. They got a nice bridge they could try to cross. There's a lot of neat things that are going on here. So, again, not too big, not too small. I am going to switch to my select tool, and I'm going to make sure that I'm on my map, a layer, and then I'm going to move it down a little bit to give me some negative space up top to work with. Sweet. So now we have a map in Roll20. The map has a grid on it. We could play some Dungeons and Dragons. But we are going to try and do a little bit more with it. So let's talk about dynamic lighting. This will be the first steps of learning to build dynamic lighting. Over here on the left, we're going to go down to the second tool set, which is currently on map layer, and we're going to go to the dynamic lighting layer. It looks like some fire. Then we're going to go to the third tool down, and this is the drawing tool. We're going to go to draw a shape. By default, the draw shape is coming up as black. We're going to switch it to something super bright, like a neon green or a neon yellow or a neon pink. The reason for this is you want to make sure that your dynamic lighting layers are always very bright, so that if you accidentally build your dynamic lighting on the wrong layer, you will know right away that it is not where it's supposed to be, which happens, trust me. So now that we have this square shape, we can put a bounding box around our map. So what I'm going to do is hold down Shift. I'm going to click in the corner, and by holding down Shift, I am snapping to the grid, and I'm going to draw a bounding box around the map. What this means is when we drop the players into the map, they will not be able to see anywhere outside of that bounding box, which allows you, the DM, to store other things outside of the map that you need to grab and drag in. So you could hide monsters that are waiting to attack, clues, you could hide Shift-Z images without having to put them on the GM's layer. It gives you a lot of cool options and a lot of room to work so that you don't feel so crowded on the map. It's been a best practice that I've learned over the years to give yourself some extra padding on a map when possible. Alright, cool. So now that we have that dynamic lighting enabled, we can switch back to object layer and make sure that it is working. So what I'm going to do is go to the journal tab. I'm going to drag out Mr. John Fletcher here, and I'm going to put him down on the map. Now, it looks like John can see everything, but if you recall, as the DM, we can always see everything. So to check what John can see, I'm going to select his mini, I'm going to hit Control-L to look through his eyes, and you will see that because of that bounding box, outside of the map is just mystery. The DM could be hiding anything there, right? Pretty cool. So we know that John's going to come onto the map here, and we know that Chamomile is going to come onto the map with him. And so we will place them down in advance to save some time. We also know, according to the adventure, that they will be attacked by a giant boar as they explore this map. So what we will do in the next video is learn how to populate a map. So check the next video and we will learn how to populate a map.